I'll do some recap, had some additional notes, and hopefully move these a little further this morning. I'll try to give you my idea of what I consider a pastor of the future. Someone who will last the distance, someone who will go all through life, still being the call of God. One of our facilitators said 35 to 40% of pastors actually do leave the ministry. Most after only 5 years. On a personal note, out of the 12 senior pastors that I have served under directly, 2 have passed away, and 4 have left the ministry totally. That is, not only are they no longer in the pulpit, but they no longer even attend the church. Not only did they quit the ministry, they just got, it's like they just resigned from anything God. Because I want us to be able to put this problem in perspective so that we know exactly where we're going. And I run into ex-pastors on a regular basis at conferences and speaking engagements. Makes me wonder what's up with that. In other words, what's really going on? What's happening? I'm quoting one Dr. Richard Kresher. And in the same write-up, look at the following things they found. Here is research that we distill from Banner, Focus on the Family, and Fuller Seminary, all of which back up our findings, and additional information from reviewing others' research. 1,500 pastors, that's 1,500, leave the ministry each month due to moral failure, spiritual burnout, or contention in their churches. 1,500 every month. Multiply that by 12, that gives you an idea of those who do not fall into this category of pastor of the future. Those who just literally fell by the wayside. 1,500 on a monthly basis. It says 50% of pastors' marriages will end in divorce. That's a sad one. 80% of pastors feel unqualified and discouraged in their role as pastor. 50% of pastors are so discouraged that they will leave the ministry if they could, but have no other way of making a living. In other words, some are just hanging on. It's like, I've been in this thing for too long. So what? The story is like, like the steward who was accused to his master that he wasn't faithful. And the master said, give account of your stewardship because you can no longer be a steward. And he said, hey, what will I do now? I can beg. I can farm. I don't just have anywhere to turn anymore. I think that's the point with many pastors. They will leave if they can find an alternative. 80% of seminary and Bible school graduates who enter the ministry will leave the ministry within the first 5 years. 70% of pastors constantly fight depression. While Pastor Afolabi was talking this morning, Pastor Dennis reminded me a word I coined many years ago. I call it numbausis. I said the disease of pastor is called numbausis. And then I could say that because I know it, I've been through it. A pastor, a church at the time, were getting ready for media convention, and I set the target of the attendance for 4,000 people. I was expecting 4,000 to attend the meeting. And in that meeting, we had an outpouring of God's Spirit. So, God's power was so awesome. And then salvation of souls, healings and deliverances. But I discovered when the ushers turned in the figure, were about 3,700 in the meeting, and I was so sad. Very, very sad. So I realized that it doesn't matter how much the number is, if this issue is not dealt with, even when you are 10,000, you are wondering, why are we not 10,005? That's 70% of the pastors I said from research are said to be depressed constantly. If I'm reading this, you'll find out how in danger we are. We had a seminar in Lagos not too long, and I described pastors as endangered species. I said we are in danger not because we are just reducing in number, but we are in danger because of too many things that can happen to us. Our health is in danger. Our family is in danger. Our soul is in danger. Friends, it's a serious matter. We need to look at that very carefully. It's estimated that only about 23% of pastors can be said to have friends, genuine friends they can confide in. So everybody brings their problem to you, and you have nowhere to go. You go back home nursing your own wounds, no one to talk to, because everybody fell or thought all along you are an angel who doesn't have problems. And of course, we also live in an environment where we like to play the big man who cannot be seen. Pastor Ayobasi is here, I guess. We returned from a trip to Uganda and to Kenya sometime in May. And when we got there, in one of the sessions, I gathered people around and said, let's review what have we learned and all that. And while we're doing that, one of the days I surprised them and I said, you know what? I carry so many things along when we're coming because I know we're a team and there might be needs. So I told them, I even carry some raw food from Nigeria, which they were not aware of until I showed them. I carry food, I carry drugs, I carry some drugs, and I said, you know what? Not every place is like Nigeria where everybody is a physician. You realize everybody is a physician in Nigeria? When you complain of something, your friend tells you, have you tried this? Everybody's a physician in Nigeria, and you can buy anything across the counter. But I realize that's not the case with every nation. You get to some places, you need a doctor's prescription to be able to get a drug. I say, you know what? I don't want to run into that trouble. I say, I'd rather have us take this drug back if we don't need it than need it and run into trouble. When we returned, Pastor Ayobasi sent me a letter, and he said, well, I have been close to you, but not this close, and it's deliberate. I didn't want to get too close to you and take you for granted, but this time we traveled together, I have been so impressed and blessed that he was surprised I could mention I carried drugs along, that a pastor, a brother, a friend of his told him, their pastor was sick. He sent for a doctor in their church who treated him privately. The same day he got to church and he finished doctor. He doesn't use drug, he doesn't do anything, and the doctor that treated him was in church. So we create this impression before the people that we are angels, we don't have problems. So when we now do have problems, we don't know who to tell. That's what makes us in danger. We don't have friends. We don't have people we can talk to personally. We carry struggles, we carry burdens, we carry yokes that we can handle by ourselves. May I say this kind of meeting affords you the opportunity to hook up with people as you are led by the Spirit of God. So that when there is a need to call someone, you know who to reach out to. When the Bible says, woe to him that is alone, it's not only in the context of marriage. That affects every other thing we do. All right, so having known these problems, It brings us back to the conclusion we made earlier on, that if we are going to last, if we will be the pastor of the future, it will not just happen. For us to be the pastor of the future, we have to be intentional about it. We must be intentional. It will not just happen by chance. We have to be deliberate about it. We have to propose in our heart, I want to be a pastor of the future. I want to last the distance. One of the things we mentioned in the last consideration is that if you are going to be a pastor of the future, you have to have a vision. You have to have a vision for the future. And then let me just drop a few footnotes here, and we can go on to something else. I mentioned to us on Monday that if we don't have a vision for tomorrow, we don't even have a tomorrow, because tomorrow is in the womb of vision. Tomorrow is in the womb of vision. Vision is what carries tomorrow within it. And that's important for us to keep in mind. Now, quickly a word on this as we go on. Let me suggest this, that when you have opportunity to gather in meetings like this, to hear, for me it's an opportunity. We walked along by the riverside, and when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. When she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. And she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away, nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. Verse 10. The child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water. I've talked briefly on understanding trend, but let me link that up quickly with the third thing, because that will give us a clearer picture. That if we are going to last the distance and be the pastor of the future, not only must we have a vision of the future, not only must we understand the trend, but that we must be able to build a strategy, put strategy in place that we make us to last. And I want to understand, I said, for us to be the pastor of the future, we have to be intentional about it. We have to take our time and be intentional about it. It will not just happen. Now, how does this relate? Let me ask you this question. Why or what informed the decision of Moses' mother to put the baby in the ark and keep that baby by that particular river at that time of the day? Sir, he knew the woman will be passing. My take on that is this. The mother of Moses had understood the trend. The mother of Moses realized, because I want to be sure that was not the only river in the land. That could not have been. That could not have been the only river in the entire land. There must be other rivers. So why would she go for that particular river? I guess through observation. Over time, she had known that this is the particular river where the royal household would normally go to have their bath. Are you following me? She had studied the trend. She had known this is the way, this is the river that the royal household was accustomed to. They will normally come to this river. She understood that. I guess also she understood the time, what time of the day the lady will normally come, because there's a limit to which you can keep a baby by the bush without food, without anything. She had mastered the road, she mastered the river, she mastered the timing, she knew the trend, and she packaged the baby. And how amazing that when God is working out salvation for us, sometime He co-opts us into the process so we can become co-laborers with God. And I believe when God had seen the effort of this woman, that she has done enough, God pick up the rest of the matter. She hid the baby first in the house 3 months. And the Bible says when she could no longer hide her, said, "No, what else are we going to do? If this boy will leave, we need to put a strategy in place. If this boy will leave, I got to do something." And I guess, like we heard earlier on, she probably said that even if she will not leave, let it be on record that we have done all we could. We're going to take another step and put this boy in the ark, hide the boy by the river, plant the sister as a spy, and we see what God will make out of the rest. Amazingly, God surprised them. Isn't God amazing? It was at the time that Pharaoh's daughter came that the baby wept. So they took notice of somebody there. And then when she picked the baby up, she had compassion, because she could have actually passed by the baby. She could have let the baby. So this must be one of the children of the Egyptian. And by the way, as it occurred to you, even after she realized it was one of the babies of the Hebrew women, there was an extant law that all male child should be killed. The law passed by our own father. She defied the law, set the law aside, and picked up the baby. Now, what I'm trying to say is that thank God for God already had a plan for him, but that strategy helped the woman to preserve the life of the child. A pastor of the future must plan for the future. You just have to. You just have to. Friends, I'm taking my time because I want to really last long in this journey. I want to last long in this journey. I call a ministry acquaintance of mine who is in Kenya, and I asked him, when I visited them years ago, they are planning to buy a property, maybe raise up a place of worship. So when I called him not long ago, I said, how about that property you were trying to get? I said, well, we had one small one, we want to sell that and raise some money and big one. I said, you know what? You don't have to be under any pressure, because this is the work we would do with the rest of our life. There's just no basis being under pressure. This is what we do for the rest of our life. Now, look at this. Those who, if you ever seen those who are in the race, those who approach a marathon race the way of a sprinter, they don't last. And watch most of all those 5,000 miles or 10,000 miles and all that. usually those who take off in front and running like a sprinter, after a few laps, they're gone. As the scripture says, the first becoming last. This thing requires those who win in a marathon, they have a strategy for it. They don't burn all their energy just in the few first laps. No. And friends, ministry is like pastoral call, is like a marathon. It's for the long haul. You need to get ready for it. I didn't finish the statistics I was reading the other time. It said that less than 30% of pastors read the Bible for devotion except when they are going to preach. That means they have no vital relationship with God on their own. This thing is a marathon. We will need a strategy to be put in place for us to last a distance. And I love what Moses' mother did. That simple strategy preserved the life of a child that will be one of the greatest prophets ever known to man. I read another story, and then I'll make you pray a prayer. Come with me to Luke chapter 19. Luke 19 from verse 1. And Jesus entered and passed through Jericho. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, which was the chief among the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was, and could not for the press, because he was little of stature. And he ran before and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Jesus came into the place, he looked up and saw him and said unto him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for today I must abide at thy house. I want you to paint the picture of this man as we talk again on strategy. Here was a man who had a desire, he had a goal. His goal was to see Jesus, but he was bedeviled by a number of problems. One was the crowd around Jesus. Jesus, wherever he went, the crowd was always milling around him. To compound that problem was his own natural limitation. He was a man of little stature. But that was not going to stop him from reaching his goal. He had a goal. He wanted to see who Jesus was. He had heard so much about him, now he wanted to see. And friends, there's a difference. There's a difference between just hearing and seeing. This morning I was writing down a note that part of our problem is this. In our walk with God, part of our problem is this. Many of the things we have heard about God is only on the theological phase. We have not been able to cross that threshold to make what we know theologically to become an experience. We know so many things about God theologically, but we don't have that experience. You know, it's like Job, he said, I've heard of you with the hearing of the ear, but now I'm seeing you face to face. Now, that's crossing from theology to an experiencing of God. And until you do that, until you cross that threshold, there are certain things you cannot do. There are certain things you cannot attend because you are just dealing only with what you've heard. There must be that transition from that theological knowledge to that experiencing who God truly is. Zacchaeus heard, but he wanted to see. And here was a problem. The crowd and his own stature. What did he do? The Bible says He ran ahead of everyone. Talk about our hunger as he had last night. He ran ahead of everyone. And the Bible called him a chief and that he was a rich man. For me, that's a very serious combination. Whoever had a chief running? Whoever seen a chief running? Chiefs don't run. They carry their walking stick. But here was a chief that was so hungry to see Jesus, he had run. And not only did he run, but whoever had of a chief climbing a tree, he doesn't flow. But he lay aside his chieftaincy title, laid aside all the paraphernalia of office, and then ran ahead and climbed the tree. Now, the interesting thing for me is the last phrase in that verse 4. He ran before, climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was to pass that way. He understood the trend. That's the way he will go. So it appears to me that both the understanding of trend and the building of strategy should go hand in hand, because strategy is actually predicated on trend. He knew that he will come this way, so he went ahead to position himself ahead. The good news is this: he didn't just see Jesus, Jesus saw him. Much more than that, Jesus beat his expectation. He just wanted to sight Jesus, but Jesus said, no, Zacchaeus, come down. You longing to see me? I want to surpass that expectation. I'll come into your house. I'll go into your house with you. May God surpass your expectation. I said in this meeting, may God surpass your expectation. I don't know what you're expecting for your life, for your family, your ministry, your pastoral call. May God surpass your expectation. He said, come down. Go into your house with you. A strategy put in place helped him. Now, if you're going to be a pastor of the future, you need a strategy for it. The one you will build based on understanding of strength, of training, based on the inspiration of the Spirit, based on your own aspiration, how far you want to go. That's very important. That's very, very important. Let me close with these, and I will make you pray. I don't know how relevant this is. But I'm impressed about the man Zacchaeus. Because he found a way around what seemed to be a limitation. He found a way around what seems to be a problem. And he was still able to attain his goal. There's a beauty in the operation of our God. There's always a beauty in the way God operates. And I want to listen to this as you get ready to pray. Several years ago, I went to attend a crusade at a place we call Sunfield in Port Harcourt. I'm not sure now whether it was Ray and Bonke or maybe Dr. Maupai. They used that place a couple of times. They have fenced the entire place now. Now, the place we call Sunfield in Port Harcourt basically was a swampy area. A lot of swamp, muddy area and all that. But the sun filled the place to recover the place, and it's become prime piece of real estate today. I mean, that will run into multiple billions because of its location. What occurred to me as we were on the crusade ground is this. This was a swampy land, as it were, a no man's land, a land good for nothing. How did they do it? How did they recover it? From the sea And not far off, the palm sand were able to recover that land. Then the wisdom I went home with that day is this: that there is no problem in nature, that there isn't something else provided by nature to solve it. No problem in nature, that there isn't something else provided in nature to solve it. The problem is this: many times we concentrate on the problem that we forget to look at the provision that God has made for us to cure. Zacchaeus didn't have to plant a tree or plant that tree. The tree was already there. He only located it and knew it could be used to solve his limitation, to solve that problem. Now, what I'm trying to say here as we praise this, regardless of what you think is a limitation, there's already something God has provided for you to take care of what you call a limitation and for you to be able to achieve your goal and your vision. The problem might be you have not seen it. You might feel limited in one area, limited financially, limited by exposure, limited in terms of education, limited in any way. But no matter what the limitation is, there's something God has put by you, close to you, to deal with that limitation. If you open your eyes, you ask God for it, He will show you. God called Moses to go and lead the people out of slavery, out of bondage. And Moses said to God, God, the job you are giving me is not a job for a stammerer. God said, I know you're a slow speech, but I planted your Aaron by your side because I know Aaron speaks well. Whatever you say, Aaron will amplify it, will clarify it, and make Aaron to be the compensation for what you call a limitation. Friend, there's a compensation of God for the limitations of your life. You need God to open your eyes to it. You don't let the limitation you feel cripple you. There is a compensation in place. I have found that out. In every situation, in every location where people think there is a limitation in their life, a limitation of their work, or a limitation placed on them, there is always something, whether a person, whether a product, whether a knowledge, there's something God has placed there to compensate for that limitation you feel. The question is this: do you know it? Have you recognized that compensation plan? I trust God that God will help you to be able to locate an adequate strategy to know what to do to last in the race. Friends, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It takes for stamina, it requires strength so that we don't fall by the wayside. I wanted to pray one prayer. Lord, let me see all the compensation plan that you have put in place for my life and my ministry. There is a compensation plan of God, and I wanted to rise up and pray, Lord, open my eyes to see your compensation plan. Yes, I feel limited in this area. I feel inadequate in that area. I feel I'm not strong enough here, but I know there's a compensation you have put in place. Open my eyes to see your compensation plan. Is he a man? Is he a woman? Is he a system? Is he a product? What it is, Lord, let me know what you have put in place as a compensation for the limitation that I feel right now. Open your mouth and pray. There is a compensation in place, and God begin to show that to you as you pray. Now, God will open your eyes to see exactly what is there to cater for the limitation